January 2018, not a week has gone by without sweeping changes to the boards and senior management of most affected government departments and state-owned enterprises. Each week also brings new corruption investigations and charges against numerous high-profile politically exposed persons. These actions have come to characterize the Ramaphosa administration's first 100 days in office. To analyse the president's first 100 days in office, we are now joined from our Cape Town studios by Professor Richard Calland. Professor Calland, thanks for joining us. Now tell me, why is the first 100 days in administration of a president or an office bearer of such a nature such a significant milestone?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't think it bears any particular significance. It's just that in political kind of tradition, political law, so to speak, around the world, 100 days is always regarded as significant. I suppose what it does do is say, well, how has the president bedded himself in? What has he achieved? Has he set off in the right way? Is he in the right direction? And it gives everyone an opportunity to kind of pause for breath and assess that. The problem is measuring progress in such a short period of time is not easy. And between what I call unreasonable Ramaphoria and unrealistic Ramaphosaism, one has to find some kind of balance. And what we did at the Paternoster Group, therefore, was to come up with 15 indicators under 5 main clusters, 5 main headings, to assess his performance so far.
All right. And under the 5 main headings, how do you then assess his performance?
Well, I think he's managed, firstly, under the heading of political leadership, to brand himself very clearly. Despite having been the deputy president to Jacob Zuma, he's managed to put distance between himself and Zuma. He's, in a sense, shown that he's a completely different leader, that he's going to lead in a different way, and that he's determined to bring to an abrupt end the period of corruption and graft, as you said in your introduction. That takes one to the second area of assessment, which is uncapturing the state. And there again, I think he's done extremely well. With our traffic lights, we give him essentially green lights on both of these 2 main headings because, as you pointed out in your introduction, he has brought sweeping changes in the boards, the governance, the leadership, the management of most of the state-owned enterprises. Now, in a sense, this is what one might call low-hanging fruit. This is stuff over which he has full power and authority, and it would have been a disaster, a very disappointing start to his presidency had he not moved swiftly in those areas. So full marks there. Where I think he inevitably is moving slower because he hasn't had the time yet to get things going is in establishing the processes that are necessary to forge a new social pact, a new consensus around how to grow the economy. That'll take a bit longer, and it'll be the next 100 days where I think we'll need to look back and assess if he's making real progress there. Lastly, of course, the ANC. This is a president who has to drive forwards, looking in his rear-view mirror all the time at his own political party. Such was the slender victory that he had in December last year. And therefore, he has to make sure that the rest of his party is following behind him and then not dragging him back. And of course, the Zuma rump, the nationalists, the corrupt people in the ANC continue to be bothersome. And he has to make sure that they are being rooted out as well.
So the president has, however, been criticized by some opposition parties for having been part of President Zuma's administration but did nothing to stem the graft. What is your opinion on that?
Well, when it came to his cabinet reshuffle, I think this is a good example of what I'm saying, that there were certain people there like Batabile Dlamini, who remains the head of the ANC President Women's League. And it was necessary, probably for that reason, to keep her on side and keep her in cabinet. What he did was to reshuffle her sideways or even downwards into a position in the presidency where she doesn't have responsibility for budget or major budget and where she can therefore be controlled more easily. What he did do was put very safe pair of hands into Treasury in the form of Nhlanhla Nene, an old experienced hand in financial management, of course, trusted by markets and investors. And secondly, most importantly, he put into public enterprises, the ministry responsible for state-owned enterprises, he put Pravin Gordhan, who's turned into his kind of Mr. Fix-It, the clean-up man, the man who's going across government agencies and rooting out the people who have, in the past, been the agents of state capture.
All right, now the president seemed to have stroked the right chord in getting the economy to function optimally as well as growth. Now, he first reassured the markets, investors and rating agencies that South Africa is ready for new investment by sorting out Eskom and other SoEs and appointing the investment envoys. How important was this move by the president?
It's very important, but it's very early stages in that process, and Eskom continues to be a major risk for the country's economic growth prospects. Just changing the board is not enough. It's an important and essential first step. You've got to put in the right management, and they in turn have to put in place the right business strategy. And that's the moment we're at now. In addition, there are important, what we call policy lightning rods, that the president has to take great care with them. Principal among them are the Mining Charter, and Gwede Mantashe, the new Minister of Mining and Mineral Resources, has to forge and craft a really good deal relatively quickly with the mining sector, if the president's promise that the mining sector would now be a sunrise and not a sunset industry. Lastly, of course, land. It's a burning issue. It's a core issue. It captures so many of the dilemmas and the challenges the country faces. And what the president has to do is walk a tightrope there. On the one hand, he has to move fast enough to satisfy people who want to see urgent, radical transformation in the land redistribution and reform area, which is much needed. And on the other hand, he needs to do it in a way that doesn't cause massive uncertainty and anxiety to those who might otherwise want to invest in this country.
That was Professor Richard Calland of Paternoster Group and the University of Cape Town talking to us about President Cyril Ramaphosa's first 100 days in office. Thank you for joining us. After this, we take a short break. Don't go away.